For centuries, revolutions and uprisings have not only changed but even dictated the course of history. A revolutionist requires vision, intellect, strategy, patience, and of course, sacrifice. It is like planting a seed which will grow at its own pace, but one day become a tree that will provide shade and bear fruit. For the 34th documentary of the Lost Legend series, we will talk about the life and journey of an Imam Zadeh who was the first member of the Ahlul Bayt ﷺ to rise in revolt against the Ummayyad dynasty 61 years after the martyrdom of Imam Hussain ﷺ in Karbala. A personality who, according to Imam Musa al-Kazim ﷺ, is the first to be visited by angels after they complete their ziyarat of Karbala. He is the father of the Zaid-e-Shaheids of the world, the one and only Imam Zadeh Zaid bin Ali, fondly remembered as Zaid-e-Shaheed. Peace be upon him. Zaid means prosperous and Shaheed means martyr. His name itself is a reflection of his story. Historically, he is a revered figure by both Shia and Sunni scholars and historians. Born in the year 80 Hijri, 19 years after the Battle of Karbala, he is the son of the 4th Shia Imam, Imam Ali Zainul Abideen a.s. and the grandson of Imam Hussain a.s., the chief of martyrs. His mother was from the Sindh region of the Indian subcontinent. Her name was Bibi Jodha al-Sindhi. She was the third wife of Imam Zainul Abideen a.s., a union facilitated by Mukhtar al-Saqafi. Imam Muhammad al-Baqir a.s. once said to Zaid, "How noble and decent is the mother who gave birth to a son like you." Zaid himself compared her to Bibi Hajra, the mother of Prophet Ismail, when the Umayyad Caliph Hisham bin Abdul Malik tried to humiliate him in court by calling him the son of a slave girl. When it comes to physical attributes, he has been described by historians as Mujassamai Kamal-e Khaliq, or a picture of the splendor of the Creator. I will narrate just one tradition and leave the rest to the power of your imagination. One of the titles of Imam Ali a.s. is Wajhullah, or the face of God. Imam Muhammad al-Baqir a.s. says that no one among us Ahlul Bayt was born to resemble Ali ibn Abi Talib more than my brother Zaid. Imam Zainul Abideen a.s. took great interest in the education of Zaid, especially on religious topics like the Quran, Hadith, and Fiqh, or Islamic jurisprudence. After his father, Zaid continued learning under the guidance of his elder brother, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir a.s., and after him, he learned from his nephew and the 6th Imam, Imam Jafar as-Sadiq a.s. In all probabilities, he studied in the university set up by Imam Muhammad al-Baqir a.s. and later run and made famous by Imam Jafar as-Sadiq a.s. Imam Muhammad al-Baqir a.s., after testing his Quranic knowledge, remarked, "For our father and mother's life, you are one of a kind. May God grace your mother who gave birth to you. She gave birth to a replica of your forefathers." Hence his titles, Halif al-Quran, meaning ally of the Holy Quran, and Sutun al-Masjid, or pillar of the mosque. Sunni scholar Maulana Sayyid Abul Ala Maududi, in his book Khilafato Mulukiyat, says that the Imam of the Ahlul Sunnah, Abu Hanifa, has learnt from Zaid bin Ali. There are other sources that claim that he was a student of Zaid-e-Shaheed for 2 years, while Abu Hanifa himself has described Zaid as the most prompt and eloquent speaker in all of Arabia. Zaid-e-Shaheed was an educationist. Apart from being a great narrator of traditions, he was also a compiler of various books on Quran, Hadith, and theology. The first work on Islamic jurisprudence, Majma'ul Fiqh, is attributed to him. The only surviving handwritten manuscript of this work is preserved in the Pope's Library, Bibliotheca Vaticana, in Vatican City. Photocopies of this rare manuscript are available in several libraries, including the Library of the University of Birmingham. Perhaps the most famous work of literature attributed to Imam Zadeh Zaid-e-Shaheed is the compilation of the beautiful and timeless Sahifa-e-Sajjadiya, which is a collection of the intimate supplications of his father, Imam Zain-ul-Abideen alayhi salam. How many of us have taken advantage of these supplications without ever knowing the face behind this treasure? Zaid-e-Shaheed was gifted with an extraordinary intellect. It was apparent on several occasions, but especially so when he called out the ruse of the Ummayyad governor of Medina, Khalid bin Abdul Malik, who endeavored to create a rift among the ranks of the Ahlul Bayt by calling for an open debate between the grandsons of Imam Hassan alayhi salam and the grandsons of Imam Hussain alayhi salam to decide who is superior. Zaid was quick to grasp his intentions, and his timely intervention prevented any mischief, thereby upholding the honor of the Prophet's family. His combined qualities made him one of the most popular figures among the Muslims of his generation. The ascetic Umayyad ruler Umar bin Abdul Aziz held him in high esteem. He corresponded with Zaid when he was the governor of Medina and continued to seek his advice when he became the caliph. But the quality that would perhaps outshine any other quality in a man is described by Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam when he said that his uncle Zaid was the kindest and most caring towards his family and relatives. Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam said, "God bless my uncle Zaid. He consulted with me about his uprising, and I told him, do this if you are pleased with being killed and your corpse being hung from the gallows of Al-Kunasa neighborhood." After Zaid left, the Imam said, "Woe be to those who hear his call but do not help him." Zaid's martyrdom had been foretold on several occasions. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had narrated it to his companions Huzaifa Yamani and Abu Zar Ghaffari. Muhammad Hanafiya, son of Imam Ali alayhi salam, also made similar predictions. Abu Hamza al-Shumali was among the elite companions of Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam who had seen Zaid from the age of infancy. Imam Zainul-Abideen alayhi salam had narrated to him in detail about the events of the martyrdom of Zaid-e-Shaheed. 3 of his sons, Musawir, Nuh and Hamza, were also martyred fighting alongside Zaid. Zaid-e-Shaheed was a man of literature as proved by the books written and compiled by him. He lived in an era when cursing Imam Ali alayhi salam from the pulpit and oppressing the Ahlul Bayt and the Shia was a daily norm throughout the Muslim world. The fact that despite all the blasphemy and provocation, he never hurt or harmed anybody shows that he was extremely tolerant as a person. That a man of noble descent, who was a symbol of knowledge, patience and piety, became the head of an armed uprising would give you some insight into the corruption prevalent in society and the widespread injustice brought about by the Umayyad caliphs. Because several historians have written about it, you will find conflicting accounts regarding the purpose behind the uprising of Zaid-e-Shaheed. But if you look deep, you will see reflections of Karbala. Like Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he fought the Umayyads. Like Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he chose to leave the safety of his home in Medina when he was free to stay behind. Like Imam Hussain alayhi salam, the people of Kufa promised to support him. Like Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he was left with a handful of supporters on the day of the battle. Like Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he fought against injustice for the honor of Islam. Like Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he was killed a martyr and beheaded. Like Imam Hussain alayhi salam, his body was dragged and trampled. And like Imam Hussain alayhi salam, his severed head was paraded from city to city. The similarities are undeniable, and there is no doubt whom he took his lesson from. When Zaid himself was asked, he said that the purpose behind his uprising was for the freedom to practice Amr bil Maruf, or encouraging to do good, and Nahi anil Munkar, or advising people against committing evil, which are not only the rights of a Muslim but also their duty. Compare this to Imam Hussain alayhi salam's speech when he converted his Hajj to Umrah and left for Iraq, and you will have a clear picture. Like his grandfather Imam Hussain alayhi salam, Zaid-e-Shaheed rose to liberate Islam from the grasp of tyranny and innovation, when people were told to accept anything and everything from the rulers as the will of God. Therefore, the uprising of Zaid-e-Shaheed must only be looked in the light of Karbala. Kufa was a city built for the purpose of housing the military in order to control Iraq. With time, it flourished and became an important strategic center of the Muslim world, with Imam Ali alayhis salam shifting base and making it his ruling capital. Under the Umayyads, for years, no member of the Prophet's family was allowed to stay in Kufa for the fear of an uprising. Then, the Caliph Hisham bin Abdul Malik himself sent Zaid to Kufa to face the arrested ex-governor Khalid al-Qasri, who had accused Zaid of hoarding money for his sake. On facing Zaid, Khalid instantly accepted that he had lied against him. But despite being free of all charges, the governor, Yusuf bin Umar, for reasons best known to him, decided to detain Zaid within the city of Kufa. And that was the mistake from which there was no return for the Umayyad dynasty. Finally, after 6 long decades, the Kufans had amongst them a member of the Prophet's family, one who was a look-alike of Imam Ali alayhis salam no less. It was déjà vu to the glorious days of Imam Ali alayhis salam's rule. Zaid's presence gave the Kufans not only hope but also the courage to rise against the Umayyads. Word spread, and one by one, they began to meet and gather around him. By the time Yusuf bin Umar realized and asked Zaid to return to Medina, 5 months had passed and the movement had already gathered momentum. After consulting with Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhis salam, Zaid bin Ali returned to Kufa, albeit in secret. By the time his presence became known, more than 40,000 men had sworn the oath of allegiance to him and promised to fight beside him to overthrow the ruling seat of Kufa. They included men from Kufa, Madain, Wasit, Basra, Mosul, to as far as Ray and Khorasan in Iran. News reached the governor of Kufa through spies, and he declared a curfew in the city. 4 army units were deployed, while several raids were carried out at the homes of his supporters in order to capture Zaid. Many were arrested. Hundreds of men were ordered to assemble at Masjid al-Kufa, and they were locked up inside to prevent them from joining the uprising. The intimidation tactics worked, and many of his supporters abandoned the mission at the last minute. Qasim al-Naghi and his companion became the first martyrs of the uprising when Zaid sent them to summon his remaining supporters. In the end, Zaid was left with just 218 men, with whom he initiated the uprising. The battle, fought mostly in the streets of Kufa, lasted for 2 full days. Zaid and his companions, like Nasr bin Khuzaimah and Muawiyah bin Ishaq, fought bravely. The armies were in awe of Zaid, and he defeated and dispersed them wherever he encountered them. Some of the clashes were bloody, with both sides losing men. But as long as he fought, the battle remained in the favor of Zaid. Yusuf bin Umar, the governor, chose to remain stationed on a hill outside Kufa, guarded by hundreds of armored soldiers. Towards the end of the second day, when the darkness had completely set in, an arrow struck Zaid on his forehead. His companions carried him away, while the army thought that they had retreated for the night. When the arrow was pulled out, Zaid sighed loudly one last time. At the age of 42, in the prime of his life, he embraced death as a martyr. It was a night of Thursday. His body was secretly buried by the river Euphrates in the dead of the night, and water was released over the grave in order to conceal it. But the vindictive Umayyads discovered his grave and exhumed his body. At Qasr al-Ammara, the governor's palace, the body of Zaid-e-Shaheed was beheaded by Hakam bin Sult, the chief of Kufa. His body was put for display at the palace, while his head was sent to Damascus as a gift for the Caliph Hisham bin Abdul Malik, who had it hung at the city gate. Hisham ordered Yusuf bin Umar to strip Zaid of his clothes and crucify his corpse. Zaid-e-Shaheed was crucified in the Al-Kunasa neighborhood of Kufa, the exact place where today his shrine stands. Almost as soon as his body was pulled up, a spider spun a web around his waist, thus protecting him from the gaze of the onlookers. The prophecy of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had thus come true. After 3 years, when Hisham died, the new Caliph Al-Walid ordered Zaid's body to be brought down and burnt, and his ashes to be strewn in the wind by the river Euphrates. Where the shrine stands today is the place of his crucifixion. Zaid-e-Shaheed has no grave, for there was no body left to bury. His head was sent from Kufa to Damascus to Medina and then to Cairo in Egypt, where again it was hung on the gate of the main Friday mosque. One night, a few Egyptians managed to quietly bring it down and buried it in the dead of the night. The claim that the head of Imam Hussain a.s. is buried in Cairo is historically incorrect. Rasul Hussain in Cairo is in reality Rasul Zaid, the final resting place of the severed head of Zaid-e-Shaheed, and his name is mentioned on the gate of the mosque. Like his grandfather Imam Hussain a.s., Zaid-e-Shaheed was a man ahead of his time. Not only was he wholly committed to his cause, but was also supremely proficient at carrying it out. He was a man of free will and a master of his own destiny. Instead of staying safely in Medina, he chose to stage a revolt in Kufa, yet fully aware of the outcome. Instead of allowing the inevitable death to walk to him, he chose to walk to his own death. The uprising of Zaid-e-Shaheed was the beginning of the end of the tyrannical Ummayyad dynasty, which folded up within a few years of his martyrdom. They only didn't know it then. The brazen display of his crucified body didn't help the cause either. With his blood, Zaid gave new life to the long suppressed hopes of the Muslims of ever being able to come out from the clutches of the Umayyads. As a result, there was one Alawid uprising after the other, the more famous ones being that of his son Imam Zaid-e-Yahya and that of Imam Zaid Muhammad Nafse Zakiya, till in 132 Hijri, 10 years after the martyrdom of Zaid-e-Shaheed, the Umayyad kingdom came crashing down like a house of cards. By taking the task upon himself, Zaid-e-Shaheed was protecting the Imam of his time. In fact, one of the greatest gifts of his uprising was a 15 to 20 years window for Imam Jafar as-Sadiq a.s. to teach and spread his wisdom and knowledge to the thousands of students who studied from him at his university in Medina and Masjid al-Kufa. It gave the world gems like Jabir bin Hayyan or Geber, the father of chemistry, and Muhammad al-Khwarizmi or Algorithmi, the father of algebra and algorithms. Imam Jafar as-Sadiq a.s. taught them and several other students whose sciences and discoveries remain a source of benefit to the world even today. For more insight, read the book The Great Muslim Scientist Imam Jafar bin Muhammad as-Sadiq a.s., which was originally a thesis compiled by the Research Committee of Strasbourg University in France. Perhaps the most distinguished alumnus of the university was Imam Zaid-e-Shaheed himself. His descendants are known as the Zaidi Sayyids. Not only are they in large numbers, but are spread throughout the world. There is also a sect by the name Zaidi or the Zaidiyas, who believe in Zaid bin Ali as the Imam of his time. They are mostly concentrated in Yemen. For your knowledge and convenience, here is a list of the shrines of the close relatives of Zaid-e-Shaheed. His eldest son Yahya is buried in Gumbad-e-Kavus of the Golestan province of Iran. He was present with his father during the uprising in Kufa. There is another shrine attributed to him in Miami, close to Mashhad, also in Iran. His second son, Hussein-e-Zuldama, is buried in Hilla, while there is a second shrine attributed to him in the Maysan province, both in Iraq. The shrine of his third son, Sayyid Muhammad, is located in Khomeini Sheher, close to Isfahan in Iran, while his fourth son, Isa, is buried in Shanafia city of Diwania province in Iraq, approximately 65 kilometers from the holy shrine of Imam Ali alayhi salam in Najaf. He is the progenitor of the Zaid-e-Shaheids of India and Pakistan. The popular Imam Zade Muhammad Mehrooq of Nishapur in Iran is the grandson of Zaid-e-Shaheed and son of Imam Zade Sayyid Muhammad, while Bibi Zainab Salamullah Alaiha of Cairo in Egypt is, according to some narrations, daughter of Yahya, son of Zaid-e-Shaheed. Peace be upon them. To all my viewers, my message is this: keep the revolutions of Imam Hussain alayhi salam and Zaid-e-Shaheed in your hearts, and keep the great uprising of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam in your eyes. The seed of patience was planted on the day of his occultation and will bear fruit when he returns. Salams to all.